The sprawling, sun-drenched landscape of Los Angeles has always been a battleground for the wealthy and the beautiful, a place where corporate empires are built on shattered hearts and devastating betrayals. But beneath the glittering facades of Forrester Creations and the newly minted Logan Fashion House lies a much darker, more dangerous underbelly. The ongoing war between Ridge Forrester and Bill Spencer has already claimed numerous casualties, but the collateral damage is beginning to take a far more sinister turn. At the absolute center of this impending catastrophe is Will Spencer, a young man who is currently spiraling into an abyss of depression, guilt, and vulnerability. Will's life has completely imploded following the violent altercation at the bikini bar, where his fist accidentally struck the venerable Eric Forrester. The horrifying image of Eric's bruised face was enough to permanently shatter Will's relationship with the love of his life, Electra Forrester. Now, isolated, heartbroken, and drowning his sorrows in alcohol, Will has become the perfect prey for an opportunistic predator. Melissa Dillon has proven herself to be a master manipulator, a woman whose ambition far exceeds her moral compass. From the moment she witnessed Will's devastating breakup with Electra, Dillon recognized a golden opportunity to elevate her own status. She did not merely offer a shoulder to cry on, she orchestrated a calculated seduction. Following a heavily intoxicated Will back to the secluded beach house, Dillon took full advantage of his impaired state. She kissed him, slept beside him on the sofa, and embedded herself into his fragile world. But Dillon's machinations did not stop at a mere physical encounter. Recognizing the immense power and wealth of the Spencer family, she decided that a simple romance was not enough to secure her future. She needed leverage. She needed an insurance policy that would guarantee her a permanent place in the upper echelons of Los Angeles society, regardless of whether Will actually wanted her there. In a move that can only be described as chillingly calculated, Melissa Dillon secretly recorded the audio of their passionate, messy night at the beach house. Every whispered word, every sound of their intimate encounter was captured on her device. This audio recording was never meant to be a keepsake. It was a weapon forged in the fires of pure greed. Dillon's plan was simple yet devastatingly cruel. She would use the recording to blackmail Will Spencer. She intended to hold the audio over his head, threatening to release it to the public, to the media, and most importantly, to Electra Forrester, ensuring that any microscopic chance of a reconciliation between Will and Electra would be permanently obliterated. Dillon believed that by holding Will hostage with this humiliating recording, she could extort money, status, and perhaps even a permanent position at Logan Creations. She thought she had executed the perfect crime, trapping a vulnerable billionaire heir in a web of undeniable proof. However, Melissa Dillon made a catastrophic, fatal miscalculation. She formulated her extortion plot under the assumption that she would only be dealing with Will Spencer, a young man currently paralyzed by remorse and emotional exhaustion. She entirely forgot about the protective, ruthless shadow that looms over the Spencer family. She forgot about the man who wears a silver sword around his neck as a warning to his enemies. Bill Spencer, the patriarchal warlord of the Spencer publishing empire, is not a man who negotiates with terrorists, nor does he tolerate anyone who dares to threaten his bloodline. Through a twist of fate, Bill inadvertently overhears the damning audio recording that Dillon intended to use against his son. The moment the audio reaches Bill Spencer's ears, a terrifying transformation occurs. An ordinary father might have panicked, might have rushed to his son's side, or might have frantically tried to figure out a way to pay the blackmailer off to avoid a scandal. But Bill Spencer is not an ordinary father. He does not flinch. He does not sweat. The realization that a low-level assistant from Forrester Creations is attempting to extort his family does not invoke fear. It awakens the dormant, ruthless instincts of the sword. Bill's eyes turn into chips of ice, his demeanor shifting from the arrogant billionaire to a cold-blooded executioner. He views Melissa Dillon not as a legitimate threat, but as a minor, irritating parasite that has attached itself to his wounded son. And Bill Spencer knows exactly how to exterminate parasites. Instead of confronting Will and adding to the young man's already crushing burden of guilt, Bill decides to handle the situation with his signature brand of lethal efficiency. He bypasses his son entirely, taking the reins of this dangerous game into his own hands. Bill orchestrates a secret meeting with Melissa Dillon, bypassing the sterile environment of a corporate boardroom or the public visibility of a restaurant. He summons her to a remote, secluded cliffside on the outskirts of Los Angeles. It is a place characterized by jagged rocks, howling winds, and the violent, crashing waves of the Pacific Ocean far below. The environment itself is a psychological weapon designed to isolate Dillon and strip away any false sense of security she might have harbored. When Melissa Dillon arrives at the desolate cliff, she likely steps out of her car with a smug sense of victory, clutching her phone and believing she is about to negotiate the payday of a lifetime. She expects to see a desperate father willing to empty his bank accounts to protect his son's reputation. But the man waiting for her at the edge of the precipice is entirely devoid of desperation. Bill Spencer stands tall, the ocean wind whipping around him, his expression carved from stone. He does not greet her. He does not engage in small talk. He immediately shatters her illusions of control, radiating an aura of pure, unadulterated menace that instantly causes the temperature in Dillon's veins to drop. Bill does not offer a negotiation. He delivers a chilling ultimatum. Reaching into the inner pocket of his tailored suit, he pulls out a single piece of paper. It is a blank check drawn from one of his untraceable offshore accounts. He holds it out to her, his voice cutting through the sound of the crashing waves like a razor blade. He tells her that she has exactly one option if she wishes to continue breathing the California air. She is to take the blank check, write down whatever astronomical number her greedy heart desires, and then she is to vanish. She is to pack her bags, change her name, leave Los Angeles tonight, and never, ever make contact with Will Spencer or anyone in the Forrester or Spencer families again. If she agrees, she gets to live a life of luxury in exile. But Bill's ultimatum comes with a terrifying alternative, one that he delivers with a terrifyingly calm, even tone. He looks deeply into Melissa Dillon's trembling eyes and informs her of the consequences of refusal. He makes it abundantly clear that if she tries to negotiate, if she tries to keep a copy of the recording, or if she refuses to leave the city, she will meet a fate that no amount of money can fix. He paints a vivid, horrifying picture of how easily someone like her could simply disappear in a city as vast and unforgiving as Los Angeles. He reminds her that he is a man of infinite resources, a man who has built an empire by burying those who stood in his way. The blank check is not a reward for her cleverness, it is a ransom payment for her own life. What Melissa Dillon does not know, what she cannot possibly comprehend as she stands shivering on the edge of the cliff, is that Bill Spencer is not bluffing. He is not making empty threats to scare a young woman. Before arriving at the rendezvous point, Bill had already set a lethal contingency plan into motion. Tapping into the darkest corners of his past, Bill secretly contacted an old acquaintance from the criminal underworld. This is a shadowy figure, a professional who specializes in making problems permanently disappear without leaving a single trace of evidence. As Bill speaks to Dillon, this underworld operative is already in position, hidden in the shadows of the cliffside, waiting for a single nod or a subtle hand gesture from the Spencer patriarch. If Dillon shows even a hint of defiance, if she refuses the check, Bill is fully prepared to give the signal. He is entirely willing to cross the ultimate moral boundary, to orchestrate a murder simply to protect his son from the emotional manipulation of a blackmailer. This extreme, terrifying escalation highlights the twisted, toxic nature of Bill Spencer's paternal love. In his mind, he is the ultimate protector, the guardian of the Spencer legacy. He genuinely believes that eliminating Melissa Dillon, whether through forced, wealthy exile or through a violent, permanent end, is an act of fatherly devotion. He sees Will as a fragile, broken bird that needs to be shielded from the vultures circling overhead. Bill justifies his descent into criminality by convincing himself that the world is a brutal place and that only the most ruthless survive. He is willing to damn his own soul to ensure that Will's future remains unblemished by the scandal and emotional extortion Dillon planned to unleash. However, Bill's blind, violent protection is a double-edged sword that threatens to completely destroy the very son he is trying to save. Will Spencer is currently hanging by a psychological thread. He is already consumed by the agonizing guilt of his violent outburst against R.J. Forrester and the accidental assault on Eric Forrester. Will believes he is a monster, a volatile danger to the people he loves. He is drowning in self-hatred for losing Elektra. If Melissa Dillon suddenly disappears without a trace, whether she takes the money and flees, or whether Bill's underworld associate eliminates her, the sudden, unexplained absence will send shockwaves through Will's fragile psyche. Will is completely unaware of Dillon's blackmail attempt and his father's lethal intervention. To Will, Dillon is simply the woman he shared a regrettable, drunken night with, a woman he is now trying to push away. If she vanishes, Will's mind will immediately jump to the darkest possible conclusions. He will wonder if his rejection drove her to despair. He will wonder if his toxic orbit somehow caused her harm. The mystery of her disappearance will become a new, suffocating obsession for the young Spencer heir. Instead of being freed from her manipulation, Will be chained to the ghost of her memory, burdened by a new layer of crippling guilt that he cannot explain or resolve. Furthermore, the sudden disappearance of a Forrester Creations employee will inevitably ignite a massive firestorm in the already volatile war between the two fashion dynasties. Ridge Forrester is already on the warpath, desperately looking for any excuse to destroy the Spencer family. If Melissa Dillon, who works closely with R.J. Forrester and Daphne Rose Walton, suddenly stops showing up to work, Ridge will not hesitate to point the finger directly at the Spencers. The police, led by Chief Baker, will undoubtedly be called in to investigate the missing persons case. The investigation will inevitably uncover Dillon's recent, messy entanglement with Will Spencer. Will, with his recent history of violence and his documented assault on Eric Forrester, will instantly become the prime suspect in her disappearance. Bill Spencer's ruthless attempt to clean up his son's mess is setting the stage for a catastrophic legal and public relations nightmare. By trying to silence the blackmailer, Bill is inadvertently painting a massive target on Will's back. If the authorities begin questioning Will about Dillon's whereabouts, the intense pressure could easily cause the young man to suffer a complete psychological breakdown. Will's fragile mental state cannot withstand a police interrogation, especially when he genuinely has no idea what happened to the woman he slept with. The irony is as tragic as it is profound. In his desperate, violent bid to protect his son from a scandal, Bill Spencer is orchestrating a chain of events that could end with Will behind bars, accused of a heinous crime he did not commit. The tension on that wind-swept cliff is palpable, a defining moment that will alter the trajectory of every character involved. Melissa Dillon stands at the crossroads of her life, staring into the cold, dead eyes of a man who holds her existence in the palm of his hand. Will she have the self-preservation instincts to take the blank check, swallow her pride, and disappear into the night? Or will her greed and arrogance blind her to the very real, very lethal danger lurking in the shadows? If she hesitates, if she pushes Bill Spencer even an inch too far, the underworld operative waiting in the darkness will strike, and the cliffs of Los Angeles will claim another silent victim. As the crashing waves drown out the silence between them, the fate of the Spencer family hangs in the balance. Bill Spencer has unsheathed the sword, fully prepared to bathe it in blood to protect his cub. But the blood he spills may ultimately drown the son he loves so fiercely. The emotional fallout of this dark, twisted confrontation will undoubtedly ripple through the halls of Forrester Creations and Logan, shattering lives, igniting new wars, and proving once again that in the world of daytime drama, the most dangerous villains are often the ones who believe they are acting out of love. We will be watching every single moment of this chilling storyline as it unfolds, waiting to see if Melissa Dillon survives the night, and if Will Spencer can survive the terrifying consequences of his father's ruthless protection. Stay tuned because the drama is only just beginning.